All right.
And you're 2 and 1.
All right. Hello. This is Emily Craig. How are you? And where I am, it's hot. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, or evening, my friends, depending where you are. I'm Emily Windsor Craig, and this is where we're on the Pacific Daylight Time on July 11th, 2020. History Reset, brought to you each Saturday, brings valuable information to the public that corporate media refuse to divulge. This program is a public service, but please donate to People's Internet Radio to keep the people's truth coming at you without commercial adverts. Today's topic in History Reset is identity, how what we advocate can either conserve us or victimize us, okay? And that's where I'm going today with identity. So I asked my guidance about the fundamental principles involved in identity. And of course, those involve our past, what we experience, our present, what we're confronting, and our future, what we hope to be able to attain. And in the past, our history shows that certain tools and methods were used that we reckon to be successful to create a civil society. Okay, so the continued ability of the successful people, and of course history is written by the winners always, is what we recognize as leadership today, okay? But what is pushing us now is the number of people who are talking to us and yelling at us and telling us that we've left justice and fairness and equity behind, and somehow those have to be restored. Well, what is justice? Justice is an innocent good person doing a good act and getting a good outcome. It's also a good person refraining from doing something harmful, gets a good outcome. It's also a person who makes a mistake, and there's a process to return them to doing good. Okay, that's justice. So what's fairness? It's giving everybody a shot at justice without impartiality, without racism, sexism, classism, yaketa smacketa. See what I'm saying? And so the ideology that we cleave to, that we hang on to, is the one that we believe has the most civil methods to create or maintain or restore what we know as civility. Now, we have a little bit of a problem at work now. All right, where am I? Okay, I'm over here. We have a problem between law, the laws of God, the laws of English common law, the laws of the land, versus mercantile, entrepreneurial, corporate statutes. And the corporate statutes were established at the galactic level, and I've talked about this several times, by the founders Elohim and the Christos founders under treaty after the fall of Lyra. The Emerald Treaty and the El-Anu Treaty created a set of conditions in which, quote, the superior races monitor and cull the inferior races and maintain a hierarchy which requires and keeps an ideology as its standard of behavior. The problem with that mercantile mentality is that over time, since the Hebrews went to Babylon and framed the Talmud in the idiom and after the culture of the Anunnaki ETs, the law, the holy laws of Moses became compromised. And whereas the holy law says, give a good report and tell the truth and be impartial and treat travelers fairly and yaketa smacketa, under the Talmudic scholars, the way of dealing with people reverted to the sacrificial system of the Canaanites. And this happened a couple thousand years ago. So by now, we've had a couple of millenniums of elite hoarding oligarchy taking advantage of Talmudic compromises to holy law and creating a worldwide society now under collectivism and Marxism and Zionism, in which practices that are out of the E.T. Anunnaki handbook for commercial exploitation of the galaxy have been put to work on our world. Okay? So our sins have become opportunities for profit. Adultery, all right, sex practices have become the sex trafficking market and the legal divorce market and the child care market. Anarchy has come to be indulgence, and there's the hoarding group, and there's the group that's overturning civil society. Bestiality, okay, is now taking the form of demonic rape and sex practices against children. Bribery is everywhere. Interests, corporate interests lobby with cash, guns, and sex. Ideology has taken on, because of the practices of the mainstream media, divide and conquer. Okay, misery and penury exist because of the aforementioned. Okay, perfidy is merely the secrecy that is colluding in harm. All right. Piracy is murder and rob Peter to pay Paul. We see that all over. Slavery is oppression and suppression. And usury is fees and interest by the oligarchy against the people who work. So these de facto just business practices are opportunities for lawyers to profit. Okay. Okay, it's the old David Icke saying, you know, they create a situation and then they create a business to ameliorate the situation, and then they profit off that business. Okay, and that's the situation that we have to deal with. Now, our identity has been confounded by the mainstream media and by the social media and by academia, who have essentially been propagating and teaching Marxism, the Fabian School, Saul Alinsky, Bolshevism, Zionism, okay, for the 50 years since I was at UC Berkeley. Academia is teaching anarchy and takedown methods. They don't talk very much about positive methods for mediating disputes and conflicts, arbitrating labor disputes, okay, mediation, arbitration, conciliation between nations, all right, and so they haven't been talking about the technologically built methods for solving conflicts and disputes that exist in public policy and in computer science. all of that has been repressed and suppressed in order to get this Bolshevik revolution going. Now, where are we in this conflict? We have to make some decisions, okay, about who we are, what we are, and where we are. And our decisions, of course, come largely out of our experience in the past if we let that happen. But I don't know anybody who can testify that the past that they knew growing up is anything like now. As far as I'm concerned, the past is not a guide to the anarchy and chaos we have now. So we have to, at some point, start separating our thoughts from methods that produce good outcomes from the thoughts of just tearing everything down and just getting rid of everything. Because getting rid of a civil society is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's not solving any problems at all. It's not even talking about solving problems. Okay. So once we get our thoughts focused on, I'm responsible for what I do for myself and to care for myself. Okay, that's where we start. Let's start there. Now, you know, I've been having terrible problems with my voice and choking. I have a problem in the esophagus. It itches. It's a post-nasal drip. And so I've been having to learn to get very subtle about what I take in, what I ingest, what I eat, what I drink, and how I breathe. And I was complaining to God about this, and he says, what are you talking about? This is what you can share with people that they can learn how to take care of themselves better, so that big pharma and big pharma and junk food have less of a hold on people's behavior and their choices, so they feel better, they're more confident, and they do better. Well, I thought, all this time, okay, you know, my baccalaureate degree is in nutrition. I had a health food store for 5 years, okay, and all this, I even wrote a nutrition book, okay, on how to get your diet under control. But I haven't been here sharing what I know about getting real subtle about my behavior, about diet. Now, Steve said something to me when we just connected today. He says, I'm going to go on a vegetarian diet. And I thought to myself, you know, that's the easy thing that people grab for, is a method that is well published. But if you're going on a vegetarian diet, understand you're subject to protein deficiency, you're subject to minerals deficiency, and you're going to have other problems from what you have now. What I learned in my studies is that the human body is unique, and each DNA has its own way of thriving in the world. How we know this is by our love for ethnic foods. You love that Chinese food you get on Friday night, or the Mexican enchiladas for Saturday lunch, or the British breakfast for Sunday brunch. Okay, ethnic peoples have devised diets for their group that work for the metabolism of the people in that group. And what I found when I did the research for my nutrition book is that ethnic diets are a rational approach to how a person can participate in thriving. There's a good reason for ethnic diets, okay? And so we need to get to the phenomenology of how does that bite feel. Okay, and that's where the desire to maximize your performance based on what you put in your body comes from, is knowing what it is your body wants. Okay, and there's not just what your body wants, there's also what your body doesn't want. Okay, detox. We have to get rid of the poisons, we have to get rid of the chemicals, and we have to get rid of the carbon. Okay, breathing carbon dioxide that we get, that we exhale. Getting rid of the carbon is getting rid of the goo that makes breathing difficult. Okay, so I'm in the process of maximizing my ability to breathe. Why? Because everything associated with COVID-19 and this virus attack attacks the ability of the body to breathe. Okay, for one thing, COVID-19 is brought on by any virus, and what COVID-19 is the presence of excessive exosomes in the body's mucous membranes. Exosomes are not factors of immunity. Exosomes are dead cells. So when you have too many dead cells in your lungs and in your mucous membranes, you're going to test positive for COVID-19, whether or not you've been exposed to it. All right. So COVID-19 is all about the body's tendency and the ease with which the body is dehydrated. So what I'm learning about coping with this epidemic is, one, to stay hydrated, two, to stay out of crowds, and three, I have adopted certain supplements which enable and enhance.
Here's the top search result.
What was that? That's my stupid cell phone again, talking back to me. Okay. Certain supplements enable and enhance my body's ability to utilize oxygen. And the supplements I've found, I'm telling you this because it works for me, not because these companies pay me to say this. In fact, I've complained to these companies about the cost. Okay, there are two herbs that help the body detox. One is called valerian root. That's just a general assist in getting rid of everything. And the other is hawthorn berry, which is specific to the heart and enabling the heart to rest and relax. I found that there are two paths of the human body to utilize oxygen. One is in the lungs by breathing, and the other is an alternative metabolic path that has to do with nitrous oxide, which is laughing gas. Okay, and by having access to nitrous oxide, it's called Neo-40, and they're kind of expensive. But if your body is not getting enough oxygen by breathing, nitrous oxide by mouth, by these little lozenges, is a big help and assist to the heart. The other problem with oxygen uptake has to do with the heart's ability to feel comfortable with the amount of pushing that it has to do. And I found that these herbs, breathing herbs, and they are quercetin and nettle leaf, okay, help tremendously. So here I am, an old woman, learning how to detox my body with foot patches, herb baths, and detox tea, and how to increase oxygenation of the body and the blood with herbs, so that I don't have to go to the doctor and ask for the COVID-19 test. Okay, I'm not going to get it. And I wanted to give that little piece of advice and information to you, my friends, because right now they're trying to push the idea that yes, you need a mask, no, you don't need a mask. Viruses in general dehydrate the body, that bring on lung problems. 5G does the same thing. I got rid of the part of the ISP, the RFID, and the what do you call it? I got rid of the radiation coming off the server. Okay. You may have to do that if you don't want to be dehydrated from the inside by radiation, which brings on the COVID-19 symptoms. Okay. So that's our primary way of setting up our behavior so that we can thrive despite all of the craziness that's going on around us. Another thing that we have to deal with is the preferences that we exhibit out of social responsibility to try to get along with people. And those are the people we love who have other opinions and who don't agree that self-responsibility is the way to get through this crisis. Taking responsibility for our own health, taking responsibility for thrift, and not wasting our resources on preferences, and not wasting our resources on amusements and distractions and chasing around here and there with or without a mask. During this epidemic is a good time to stay home and stay in familiar, clean, hygienic surroundings so that the viruses don't get to you in the first place. Because when the 5G rollout is complete in October and November, the 5G rollout has as its purpose and as its goal the activation and the bursting of the COVID-19 virus packets in your system. That has all been concocted and staged in order to create a massive population reduction event this fall. And it doesn't do any good to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter to me that my friends will notice and take responsibility for the fact that there is a level of leadership of hoarding oligarchy who believe and who think, along with the United Nations and the World Health Organization and the Masons and the Luciferians, that the problem this world has is there's too many people, and so they want to cull and eliminate and get rid of millions of people utilizing any method they can come up with. Now, you know, these viruses have all been developed at Fort Detrick, Maryland, under corporate statute contracts. And this is why I can say to you and go refer back to the list of businesses and enterprises that are focused and determined in order to meet their Luciferian goals, that they're going to eliminate large numbers of people off our world, many of whom are honest and decent and good, hardworking people. Those aren't the people that this world needs to lose, honestly. If you've found out anything about the child sex trafficking networks and the magnitude of the business that they're doing annually in the tens of billions of dollars of selling and using and killing and eating children every year, like 46 billion every year, that our children are not safe in our own homes or walking along the street or going to school, because there are those people whose intention is to take children and sell them. That's what happened to me when I was an infant, and that's why I kind of get excited over this problem. All right, so we have the thoughts that determine what behaviors are appropriate in order to take personal responsibility for how we are doing and how we are feeling and whether we are competent. And we have to realize and recognize and admit that our preferences as to how we utilize our resources, our money and our time, but mostly our time, are going to have a large bearing on how well we get through the schedule of activities that the Illuminati have published for the balance of the year. All right. We have COVID-19 coming back in September and October, and we have natural disasters and floods and earthquakes, and even Yellowstone is supposed to blow up in August. All right. And we're supposed to have an ET attack coming in November or December, not to mention the election, which is being reduced to chaos by the left's insistence that they want to tear the whole civil society down. Okay, how we get through this, we put our thoughts in a paddock and we surround ourselves with the realization that we are a child in the universe, no less than the trees or the grass. We have the right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to us, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. And we can be a part of the unfolding that doesn't get trimmed off at the edges and doesn't lose out or get left behind. But you have to want to be that. You have to want to be that. Steve, are you there?
I am.
Okay, so you want to talk about diet?
Yes, of course.
All right. So
I need to talk about getting away from GMO foods, processed packaged foods.
Okay, and that starts with shopping.
I do that.
Now, I'm lucky. I don't have to do that like that anymore. Where I live, oh, by the way,
I want to grow my own food someday.
Okay, all right. Well, where I live in this apartment complex, we have a Crow Indian lady living here who has planted tomatoes and carrots and chard and okay, and squash all over our property. So I get a little bit of the organic, but in general, I have to shop for the organic, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, it is. But the effects of the herbicides and insecticides cost more to correct than the extra cost of the food in the first place.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The medical attention?
Not only medical attention, not only medications, but all of the means and methods you have to use to try to clean all that crap out of you. You know, exhaling is as important or more important than inhaling, because there are ways to generate oxygen in the body without inhaling. There are non-breathing varieties of humans who are non-breathers. They generate their oxygen metabolically. All right. So there's always more than one way to skin a cat. And that's what the medical profession has not learned. They have their conventions and their procedures and their practices and their visits, and they're really stuck, and they don't get into the very subtleties.
They only know how to skin a cat one way, don't they?
They only know how to skin a cat one way. Now, So tell me, where do you get your protein?
Mainly from fish and chicken, some meats.
Do you know why?
Do I know why what?
You choose fish and chicken.
No, taste maybe.
All right. And some of us do that instinctively. I do that too, instinctively. And the reason is that the mammals that people eat are programmed by fear and terror at the level of the slaughterhouse. They are all infused with terror at the slaughterhouse.
Yes.
And people don't like feeling that way, so they don't want to eat that kind of food, right? And adrenochrome is the drug that they've distilled out of children who were terrified and scared to death because it energizes the person who ingests the adrenochrome. And have you seen some of the pictures of the Hollywood stars who were on adrenochrome and had to quit?
Had to quit
Because they lost their source. Adrenochrome is no longer.
They didn't have to quit. They were forced to quit because they didn't have their source. Yeah.
That's right. They forced to. Have you seen the pictures of them since then?
Certainly have.
Yeah, like Celine Dion.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So there are valid.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, right. There are valid ways to.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't know which of Hillary's clones is on adrenochrome.
Right.
Today I was watching a video by Robert David Steele, who used to be part of the covert ops and intel.
Yeah. Yes.
And he went very deeply into the who's who and the what's what of the oligarchy corruption problem. And what surprises me is how little, even after all these years of studying, I know about it. I see we have a comment from Melanie Cozell. Optimal diets are also tied to lineage. Eat what your great-grandparents ate, and you're probably on the right track. That's correct, but you know, your great-grandparents had a vegetable garden in the backyard. And they didn't have the huge variety that.
I grew up in the garden in my yard.
Okay, well, we have one here too.
First 10 or 12 years of my life.
Right. But what defeats us is when we go to the supermarket and there are 50 varieties of yogurt and 20 varieties of macaroni and cheese. And you see what I'm saying? In the frozen food section, you can find every form and format of processed, already been cooked meat and vegetables you can imagine. But they're loaded with chemicals, and they're loaded with flavorings, and they're loaded with GMO products. So what I've been able to do is to pull back my finances away from the entertainments and the amusements and the holidays and the trips and just focus on survival. Just focus on survival. So that the food I eat each day is only and always exactly what I needed. And that's not the American way. You know, we all want to call in a Chinese dinner on a Saturday night and pig out on soy sauce and fried rice. But that's not our what our grandparents ate. And so we're not thriving on the ethnic food of other ethnicities. Have you ever tried to eat the food from India? It's all vegetarian, Steve.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't get it down. because it's all grains and dairy, grains and dairy, grains and dairy. And that's nice for them. I just love the seed culture, but their diet is killer for me. I can't eat grains and dairy. Can you?
I don't know. That could be part of the problem why I have all the problems I have.
There we go. Okay. That's where we begin the process of sifting and sorting. Okay. I have a problem with gluten. And since I've been working to customize what is called a paleo diet.
Paleo diet, yes.
Paleo. It's anything but gluten. Okay. It's meat if you want it, but I stick with chicken and fish. And all the vegetables you want, but you leave out the corn and the rice and the wheat and the bread.
The starch.
You leave out the starch. I'm better. I've lost 20 pounds this year.
I've heard the paleo diet is just the Atkins diet, just repackaged or whatever. And it's also the big craze that hit about 10 or 15 years ago, the low carb and loving it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, but what those diets did.
Probably also the keto.
Yeah, they don't take into account the source of the protein and how the body is reacting to your individual consumption of what particular protein. I've had the experience about 20 years ago. I ate a shrimp salad and my head almost exploded. My blood pressure just went right through the roof. All I did was eat some shrimp.
Goodness.
Yeah, okay. And of course, seafood are all bottom feeders, and so they're very polluted. And shrimp can do that to you. And mushrooms can do that to you if you happen to have a subtle out. Mushrooms are delicious, but too many of them you can react to. They can also kill you. Okay. So it becomes necessary to check, how did this bite feel? Many years ago, I used to go to a chiropractor, and I don't do that anymore because I have no cartilage in between the bones of my neck anymore, so my neck cannot be moved anymore. But when I went to a chiropractor, he had a set of skills called kinesiology. And in kinesiology, they test your muscles to see which muscle reacts to which stimulus. And they can tell if you have an allergy or an aversion or a reaction to a certain food using kinesiology. Have you ever tried that?
I've never heard of it.
Oh, for heaven's sake. It's very helpful. There's another test for allergy called the pulse test. And if you eat something you're allergic to, your pulse will automatically jump to between 80 and 90. Okay, so we have to learn how to detect when we've eaten something that has caused our body to go into an immune reaction. That's something else we can do. Now, since I couldn't go to the chiropractor anymore, I've returned to my practice of reflexology. You know what that is?
I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. No.
Okay. Reflexology. You know, all of your nerve endings end in your hands and your feet. That's why your feet are very, very sensitive. And so by massaging the bottoms of your feet and in between your toes and massaging your feet, you can actually activate and kick into operation other ends of the nerve endings that end in other parts of your body. And so if you can't go to a chiropractor anymore, reflexology is a big help. You can do some of the same work with reflexology that you couldn't do at a chiropractor. Just like you can do some work at a massage therapist that you can't do at a chiropractor. These alternative disciplines are marvelous, and they're much less invasive than the allopaths. Now that is cranberry juice, cranberry cocktail, I guess. And I put in a couple of ice cubes of straight beet juice. And beet juice assists the oxygen uptake of the blood. So I've learned this, and it works. It's better than a pill. Okay. All right. So you get your protein from fish and chicken. Now, where do you get your bulk, your fiber?
Get the fiber. I get asparagus a lot of times, and I will also get squash.
Yes. Okay. You're doing the same thing I'm doing. Staying away from pasta, staying away from bread.
Yeah. A pasta, that's for sure.
Great stuff, huh? When you're having a craving.
Sure. Great for the gut, isn't it?
Well, okay, but you can always help the gut with some.
That was a joke, though.
Okay.
Yes.
Yogurt and sauerkraut.
Oh, yuck.
Umbiyoshi plum paste, if you're into.
I like coleslaw. I like cooked cabbage. I like almost every way that cabbage is made, except for sauerkraut, for some reason.
Okay. Well, so far it looks like your diet is pretty parallel to mine. Okay. I eat a lot of asparagus. I make a wonderful soup out of asparagus. And I have a bone broth that I go to the health food store and buy big bags of bones, leg bones from calves and cows, and render down a bone broth that I add to soups. And that too, because the marrow inside the bones has a lot to do with blood formation. It helps me in my oxygen uptake. You know, I was born with porphyria, so I have this congenital situation with oxygen uptake and blood formation that I'm constantly responding to. And every one of us has something that we inherited that's slightly or terribly broken. And it helps to become friends with your own body and take care of your body as if your body matters.
It does matter, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's one of the points that Jordan Peterson makes, is that when we mature, we learn that we need to take care of ourselves the way we would take care of a beloved friend or family member. And neglecting ourselves is really a self-defeating matter, because then it compromises our energy and our competence and our ability to meet our obligations. So taking good care of oneself is a really big and important problem. And it's fundamental to the chaos situation that we're in, that we take care of ourselves, because we have to be here tomorrow to deal with all the crap they're going to throw at us tomorrow. You know, they throw stuff at us every day that they've concocted and confabulated and made up. And we have to be able to just roll with it and not take it too seriously, and realize we're here for a reason and a purpose. How many children I meet now who, and I'm in a neighborhood with lots of kids, but they don't engage. They don't look you right in the face. They don't smile or say good morning.
Yeah.
They're not engaged in the adventure that life is. And that's sad.
You don't have the people's internet chat up, did you?
No, but I could put it up. Why? What have we got
There's a
going?
bunch of dialogue going on. Oh, there's the question I missed.
Drinking too much
Yep.
cranberry juice can cause some
Scroll
side.
up a little bit for Stephen's question.
Oh, all right. Is this
Kidney
McKenna?
stones. Kidney
Isn't too
stones.
much cranberry juice supposed to cause kidney stones? I No, I understand cranberry juice is what is going to dissolve the kidney stones, particularly since it's known to be useful for bladder and kidney infections because it sweeps all the debris out of the bladder and kidneys. So it would be good for fighting against kidney stones. That's what I would think. I always have lots of cranberry juice here because I don't drink soda pop. I don't drink much coffee.
You just mentioned something. I know it doesn't have cranberry juice in it, but Dr. Pepper has prune juice in it. And I remember whenever I was constipated, my mother would give me a Dr. Pepper, and it would loosen things up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. There are other things that loosen things up also. Magnesium. Because of being an old woman, I have to protect my bones. So I take calcium and magnesium. But I find when I take my usual and plenty of magnesium, I don't have the constipation problem. Magnesium reacts to water. It explodes in water. And so in the GI tract, it explodes whatever's wet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get explosions.
Well, yeah, I get a little jet propelled here and there. Yeah. So
I've had plenty of that in my life.
yeah, so I have found that I've never had a problem with kidney stones because I've always had plenty of lemonade, grapefruit juice, cranberry juice, and I hydrate a whole lot. Dr. Pepper has aspartame, and my youngest son has phenylketonuria, which is a contraindicator. You don't have any aspartame in the diet. But no, I stay away from all that stuff. Okay. I think I had my last Coca-Cola in the 80s. Yeah. And I because I had a health food store back in from 79 to 84, I taught my children that soda pop wasn't food, that it was chemicals. And they took me seriously. That's one of the few things they ever took me seriously about. And so they've all been very careful about that.
I have a story for you. I know this guy. I haven't seen him in about 10 years or so, but he's a bailiff at a county jail, county court. Actually, he's a bailiff at not a bailiff. What are they called? The
clerk?
No, he's a police officer type.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's the bailiff.
That is a bailiff, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he would he drank a lot of Dr. Pepper, not Dr. Pepper's, Mountain Dews during the day, and he cut out. I think he told me he would drink like at least a dozen a day, dozen Dr. Peppers to keep awake, and just because he was addicted to it.
Yeah, well, some people are like that with coffee or tea.
He cut those out, and then the first 2 weeks he lost 26 pounds.
First 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's one reason I got a new triple filter system for the tap water, so that I would drink more just plain water. And that seems to be helping. That also, when we become dehydrated, that's when the heart has to work a lot harder to pump fluids around the body. So staying hydrated is a very important thing for me to do all day long. And so I'm home here, so I'm just drinking juice or water or tea or coffee or my Rolling Rock near beer.
Yeah.
All day long and staying hydrated. And what the 5G does is explode the water molecules within the cells of your body. And what glyphosate, the herbicide that's in the GMO foods, does is dehydrate the body. And what viruses do is dehydrate the body. So when you have all three of those factors working at once and your body becomes seriously dehydrated, that's when you are really, really sick with heart problems, with circulatory problems and breathing problems. And that's what we're going to see more of with the complete 5G rollout coming this fall, and the COVID-19 coming back and back and back in new forms and formats, all brought to us by the courtesy of Fort Detrick, Maryland, where these diseases, going all the way back to HIV, SARS, Ebola, have been developed for money. They've been developed under federal contracts for bioweapons to protect. I don't know how bioweapons can protect anybody. Do you? I don't see bioweapons as protecting.
No, I don't.
No, that's not how we protect anybody. What else do we have? Okay, so I'm lucky because Lisa, our Crow Indian here, has put in a whole bunch of tomatoes and carrots and squash. And so even in my apartment complex, I get fresh organic vegetables. Yay! And in return, I gave her packets of seeds. So now she's planting more seeds everywhere.
You can't beat that.
You can't beat that. And I thank her every time I see her. Wow. Thank you. Hyaluronic acid in gelatin is essential. You know what gelatin is made of? Jello is the hoof made from the hooves and of cows.
But gelatin is made from the not so much the hoof, but the cartilage.
Yeah, the cartilage. You can also get seaweed gelatin called agar, AGAR. That's essentially the same thing from the sea. And we're running out of time, so I'm just going to make one more point here about diet, and that's the acid-base balance of the diet. You know, acid and alkali is what basically the positive and negative of the biology, the way electronics is run by plus and minus. Okay, it's the polarity of the human cell's biology. And our proteins are acid, and the starches are also acid. And that's why when you eat the proteins with the starches, you're over acid. But the greens and the beans and the dried fruits and the red wine and the seaweeds are alkaline. And so those are the groceries that I buy repetitively. I buy those groceries so that I have to cook them. Okay? I buy what I need to be healthy, and then I have to confront the reality that that's what's in the refrigerator, and I have to fix something out of it.
Uh-huh.
So I trick myself. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So we got to take care of ourselves, Steve.
Yes, we do.
And I think we're doing that by getting together on Saturday and sharing ideas. Thank you, Melanie Kozel, for coming by and sharing about bone broth and your ideas. And next week, we're pushing on into July. It's going to be hotter than blazes. And
We're in July.
yeah,
August, you mean?
yeah, but we're in July, but it's going to get hotter. I'm in California and it's so hot. It's almost like Phoenix this year. It's that hot. And so we're going to be dealing with more hot weather and more dehydration and more hysteria and more chaos. So I'm sure we'll find something to talk about.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will. And so
I've actually been to Death Valley, California when it was 121.
well, I grew up in a family business that was a wholesale dry cleaning plant. And we went, before we had air conditioning there, a big steam boiler up on the roof. I used to work there when it was 128. Yeah. But then I was a kid. It didn't matter. I didn't care.
Right.
It didn't bother me. And I tried to eat my garlic soup. Thank you, Melanie. Yes, garlic. More garlic. I buy garlic by the pound, and I put it in everything but ice cream. Okay, I don't eat ice cream. But yes, garlic belongs in your diet. It's in the bone soup, and it's in just about every protein. And what garlic is an antibiotic. It kills all the germs. It's how we keep our insides clean. So there we are. We've done it again today. Thank you everybody for coming by and contributing your ideas. And we'll be back next week and deal with more heat and dehydration and chaos, because that's what we're dealing with. With God's help, we're going to get through this. And I have met more and more people, especially young people, for whom the topic of God is just totally alien. They have no sense of the larger intelligence of the universe. So we can talk about that too, because I've been kind of focused on that for a long time too. Yeah. Okay, dear Steve, we'll see you next week, and thank you so much for helping me handle this the way you do so competently. I enjoy your input. You're very helpful to me.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, see you next week. Bye-bye. And